Today we're doing a 2016 Ford Escape front pads and rotors. These things have about I think she said 120,000 Ks, originals, never been replaced, pretty stinky. Anyway, I'm going to try and do this one shot, and hopefully I've got everything out in front of me and not have to do any editing or anything like that, because it's like -2 out here and I want to be done as quick as possible. So I'm going to leave the key in the ignition, not turned on, but in the ignition so that the steering doesn't lock. And then turn the wheel all the way toward us. I think you can see that. Okay. Now this, I'll turn it back. Spring clip, if you're familiar with Volvos, same type of thing, or lots of other cars. Just going to stick a screwdriver in and pop the little spring clip out. Now we're going to turn the wheel back. I'm going to pull the two plastic caps off of the caliper pins, the slider pins. Two little plastic caps. Now we're going to use a 7mm Allen-headed socket to remove them. And they simply unscrew. If you go in the correct direction, good God. Again, I'll leave my mistakes on. We all screw up. Okay, for the sake of speed. Okay, so the two pins are out, and now I'm just going to take a screwdriver. You can see the top of the pin, it's not quite cleared. I'm just going to push it back into the rubber a little bit so I can pop it out. Put you back down. And hopefully I can reach the bottom one and do the same. And now we're just going to pop the caliper off. Now this pad may or may not come off with the caliper, but the inner one will. Okay, and there's the old pad. Simply pushes out, and you can see how toasty that is. Okay, so let's put this up here and pull the two pins. Again, I hope you can see that. You can. And we're going to clean those off in a minute for reinstallation later. So we'll just leave that there for now. Phew. Yeah, look at these pads. There's nothing left on them. And now with a wire brush, we're going to have to do this once this is off, but we're going to mostly clean off the spots where the pads ride on top of the caliper bracket here. Because that rust will prevent the new pads from moving properly, and they'll get stuck and bind and your brakes will wear out quicker. So I'm actually, instead of wasting your time, actually, you know what? I'm going to do this just real quick. We're going to have to clean this up a little bit once it's out, but it's just easier to do it once it's on there. Now we're going to need an 18mm socket to take off the two 18mm bolts that hold the caliper mount. Let's put you over there so you can see that. can see blue on them. That means they have thread lock, and we're going to be installing it thread locker again when we put them back on. And now that these are out, you see you can't really reach the inner part. Oops. You can't really clean the inner part all the way when it's on the car. So I'm going to take a file and run it along there. You can use a file, you can use sandpaper, you can use a wire wheel, one of the big round ones, but whatever's close at hand at the moment will work. As long as there's no rust, that's all that matters. And you want your new pad to be able to, again, slide in these little channels back and forth without being obstructed by rust. Now that we've got that done, we're going to take, I'm using anti-seize. You can use brake lubricant. You can use copper grease. I'm using the silver anti-seize. I've got an awful lot on there, more than I wanted, but all the spots where the pads connect is where you want grease. Okay, now that that's done, we'll put that aside where it's not going to get dirty. And where's the second one? These two caliper pins that came out. We want to clean those off. This is a copper wheel, so it's not, don't use a sandy, like a grinder disc or anything. This is a copper wire wheel, so it's not going to gouge or hurt anything. We're simply going to do that, and then, well, I'll apply the grease before they get in there because it's just going to come off. So I'll do the second one real quick. Again, we're trying to do this in one take if we can. Now here's the big bugger. This thing is going to be hard to get off, so we're going to have to whack that with a hammer. And I gave my two mini sledges to someone to use the other day, so I'm using like an old crappy hammer. This rotor is being thrown away, so I don't care about hammering on it. Starting to move. Still doesn't want to come off on its own. Okay, let me pause it and I'm going to get it off. What's the point? You guys watching it. Okay, about 40 more whacks and it's off. Goodbye. And now we're going to clean up the hub face with the grinder, with the wire wheel. And apply some anti-seize to that so that doesn't happen next time. these have to come off. Save the next poor bugger some elbow grease that he doesn't have to pound it off. Okay. Now we're going to take our caliper and we have to retract the piston. And I'm going to use a method I don't usually use. But I'm going to try it out because it's been suggested by other people. And some mechanics do this, many don't. And it's loosen the bleeder screw and then compress the piston. And it shoots all the old fluid that is in the piston and pushes it out. I kind of like that idea, so let's give that a shot. And this is a 9mm, and we're going to be compressing it with just a regular C-clamp. If you've got a brake caliper compressor, you can use that too. I'm going to tighten this up until it starts putting pressure on the piston. Once pressure is on that piston, then I'm going to open the bleeder screw, and on this one it is a 9mm. Oops. Sorry, that squeaking is a windsock on top of my house, and it's getting a little annoying, isn't it? Okay. There we go. And I'm going to put an oil drain pan underneath because the brake fluid is going to come out as we retract the piston. And as long as pressure is put on this piston, there should be no air bubbles allowed to be sucked back in. Now, the reason for this is many people say that with an ABS system that forcing the fluid backwards through the ABS system is not good for it. I couldn't get a confirmation on either, but it makes sense. And oh my God, never let that happen. Allowing the brake caliper to hang by its hose is not good. That was not meant to happen, but again, mistakes happen. So now I'm just going to tighten that bleed screw. I apologize for that. And oh, the little dust cap went over there, so we're going to have to get that back in a few minutes. Now we can take the clamp off. And I'm going to check and make sure this hose didn't get damaged. If it is, it's my fault. And I'll be paying to replace it. I think it's okay. I mean, shit happens, right? Clean out the inner ears of the caliper. And we're going to apply, you can use brake grease, you can use silicone, you can use, there's all kinds of stuff you can use on this. Some people use like caulk, like a silicone caulk, anything. All this does is prevent squeaking in your brakes. So we're going to paint the inside lightly of these fingers where the pad meets, and just around the ring of the piston. Okay, make sure our hands are clean. We're going to take the inner pad, which has the little spring clip on it, and make sure the round side goes in the proper direction down and it just pops into the hole in the center. Now we're going to take our new brake disc, and we're going to cover it in brake cleaner, get the packing grease off. We're going to wipe this down again later, but just for now, slide the rotor on. Your two mounting bolts for the caliper bracket. Where did I put it? Blue thread locker. Don't use red. You'll hate yourself if you use red. It needs heat to take off. Stuff's very expensive and doesn't need to be much used, like a drop. You're not painting them. And now we're going to slip the caliper bracket in and put the two bolts. Hope I'm not in your way. I'm trying not to be. Okay, I'm going to do the front top one first so I can see it. Kind of. There we go. And the bottom one. Okay, I'm going to set my impact gun to the lowest level, which is 100 foot-pounds. And then we'll torque them afterwards to 120. Still with me? We're going to take our outer pad and slip that right on top. And you'll see that the grease, they move nice and smoothly in there. Now make sure you don't kink your hose, that you bring it, the hose has no kinks in it, and slide your caliper over top. And make sure that everything's locked into its grooves. Now we're going to take our pins that we cleaned off and put some anti-seize. You can use synthetic grease, you can use brake grease, there's all kinds of stuff you can use. You put it on this part because it goes in and it will spread inside the rubber as it's going in and turning. Oh wow, that squeaky noise is annoying. Guess where I'm going after this? Up on my damn roof. Okay, greased up the bottom pin. Let's move you so you hopefully can see that better. I think you can. I'm going to use my other impact gun, which has a 12-pound setting, and I'm going to loosely put these on, not all the way. They should be on about 8 to 12 pounds. I'm just trying to save time. Okay. Now we're going to take the main caliper bolts. Where is my torque wrench? Uh-oh. My torque wrench just broke. Good God. Let's see if it stays working. No, it just broke. Oh, crap, the screw came out of the front. As you can see, bye-bye torque wrench. Okay, So we're going to put this on setting too, because I do not have another torque wrench, and tighten those two back bolts, which this should be at max about 200 foot-pounds, and I'm going to have to hope I don't exceed that. I'm going to put them on at about 120. I did have a torque wrench ready for you, but stuff happens. Crap happens. And I can't see or feel the bolt. There we go. Is that it? Where is the damn bolt? Actually, before this is all wound up, I think my neighbor's got a torque wrench. I'm going to go borrow his. So we'll finish this up, and I'm going to have to finish the torque values on my own. So I'm going to move the brake rotor back out so you can see. And we're almost done. We're 2 minutes from being done. We're going to clean off the rotor face again with some brake cleaner. If your dust shields are rusty, good time to paint them with some rust-proof paint. All we have to do left is the spring. 2 little clips here first. That's the easiest way. And then pull the bottom ears down over top of the bottom of the caliper. And then, excuse me, again, I said it's -2 out here today. Tap them in. Make sure these little springs stay underneath the pads there. And we're good to go. Pump the brakes a few times to make sure the brake pads come in contact with the rotor, or else the first time you pull out of your driveway, it's going to be fun. Check your brake fluid level in the master cylinder. Make sure you use the proper type of fluid, .3, .4. Don't mix them. That's about all I can think of. That's about it. First few stops on new pads and rotors, 20, 30 miles an hour, come to a complete stop. Wait a minute, do it again. Do that a couple of times, then move it up to 50, 60 kilometers or 40 miles an hour. And do that a couple of times. That'll bed in the brakes, and you'll be fine. Most people don't ever even do it, so. But it helps bed the brakes to the brake pads to the new rotors. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you like this stuff, like, subscribe, comment, tell me I'm an idiot. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope this helps.